Welcome to another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Dashi Miller here from Warrior Concepts. So this week we're going to be talking about or taking a look at Ninja no Kiai, right? So got a bunch of stuff here. Um, so I don't know how many of you know me outside of the context of ninjutsu training, Bujinkan, all those kind of things, right? But I started my martial arts training in 1975, right? Where were you in 1975? So I was in what was then called junior high school. I guess there's still some junior high schools around. Most people switched over to middle school. But anyway, so there was a karate club that met after class, and a whole long story or whatever. But I've been doing this for a little while. Okay, so and I learned about this Kiai thing a long time ago, right? I mean, one of the first things that we were taught, or that I was taught, was right. We do this shout because it startles them, right? It scares them. It does this thing, right? And so we just kind of accepted it. Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go along. But as I progressed in my training and I started to understand and I got involved in this stuff, and then I got a chance to start looking at scrolls or descriptions of kata and whatnot, right? What I found that happened a lot was that the word kiai or kyup in Korean, right, was taken from being this thing, right, that was identified, right, at a certain point in a technique as the thing being said, right? This concept, this idea, right, got turned into, well, that's the sound you make, that's the shout you do. Okay, so we'll touch on some contemporary or kind of modern ways that people look at these things. But what I really want to focus on today, if we have time, is two perspectives. One, from the Togakure school of ninjutsu, right? Because I'm pulling this stuff right out of kind of translations of scrolls that I have, as to the way this was seen by past masters and passed down. Okay, so past masters, PAST, past that. Anyway, so I want to take a look at it from that perspective because there's four general types of shouts, right? Four general types of kiai or sounds, right? And one's not even, I guess it could be a sound. But this is also very, very related to our mikkyo, right? Our esoteric mind science, basically life mastery stuff that got kind of passed down almost in parallel with things, okay? And in that instance, there's like five, okay? So again, I'm going to breeze through this very, very quickly. As usual, I'm going to give you plenty, but this is like a 30,000 foot view, or I don't know, 10,000 foot view over the sports arena. So you're getting a big picture view of things, big brushstroke kind of thing. You should be able to take it and at least integrate some part of it into your training, okay? But as always, right, we take this thing, and this is, you know, we're here on Wednesday, right? So we're going to springboard off of this into our Friday virtual class and take a look at it in real time, in action, okay? So I'll kind of articulate some of these things as we go, as far as the sounds and whatnot. But again, I'm going to do my best in teaching mode because they're going to come out a little different in actual application mode. Okay, it's just the way it works, right? So, but anyway, so I ran into these little conflicts, right? But so here's the problem that kind of crept up for me. I like to leave these things off with a problem so we can approach the solution and not just throw things around like learn it this way, this style says this or whatever, right? This training is a solution, right? You're being taught, you're being given tools and lessons, tactics, strategies, those kind of things that then get applied as solutions to given problems. Every skill, every technique, whatever, is like buying a new tool, learning how it works and putting it in your toolbox, right? But when I need to fix something around the house, I need to know which tool, because I need to know what it does. I need to know what I'm producing, right? Why did I buy that drill? Well, because I might need a hole. What do I need the hole for? Am I hanging a picture, right? Am I threading some pipe through from one section to another? Okay. I don't think that sometimes people think far enough down the line. They just, collect things, right? Like, this is interesting. I just want as much as possible. Okay. Are you getting it in the right order? Right. What's your biggest concern first? Those kind of things, right? So again, this is just another one of those tools. Okay. So here's a problem, right? If we don't understand the true nature of this thing, right, that past masters were conveying, then we can mistranslate the idea of ki, just like we can mistranslate any kata, right, or any concept, right? Just we can have it completely out of context, right? And so let's do that. Let's start by just taking a look at 3 ways, right? Again, are there more? Probably, right? But I'm just going to jump on to 3, right? That we can mistranslate ki in at least these 3 ways, all right? So we can mistranslate it from the concept of what we're supposed to do. Okay, it's our style, right? It's our system. This is how we do it. We would never do it like those people over there because, that cocky, condescending chuckle that people have, right? Because we know better, right? I've actually heard martial arts instructors teach a defense against a hook punch or a haymaker, but lead that instruction or that demonstration off with, we're going to learn how to defend ourselves against somebody who doesn't know how to punch. Really? That's interesting. The guy knows how to punch, okay? But we know that you punch. We got to be careful, right? You get all cocky and condescending, your confidence goes up, and your vulnerability goes up right along with it, okay? Because that's how Tatsumi Sensei used to teach us. Pride goes before the fall, okay? So we can think that that's just what we're supposed to do or what we're supposed to say, okay? Just like the people that their ki is the word, right? They're a Japanese martial art, then, they kill. Okay. It's not that you're not in the ballpark, but you're supposed to understand the concept of that thing. What the hell is it? Okay. Right. Okay. Or whatever language is going on. Okay. Number 2 is we can just we can do the opposite, right? We can just make up cool shit, right? We can just make up a cool shout because that's what you do, right? So we can make up a shout. One of my first teachers, one of the ones who first actually introduced me to this, was he was American, right? But had learned from the Japanese teachers and whatnot. And he shared this story because he did Korean style before he put all that aside and jumped all, feet first into ninjutsu. That, he did the competitive circuit and all that. And everybody, they use ki, right? In his dojo, they, but it was this kind of thing, right? Everybody had their own kind of thing, right? And they had this guy in the dojo that had everybody thought he had just the coolest freaking ki, right? It was just this really cool sound, right? And it wasn't until he had moved to Japan that he learned that this sound translated into Japanese was actually a slang term that meant roughly, oh shit. Okay. So his joke always was, well, I don't know if he meant that or if it was just a funny little accident, but there's this thing, right? So we can just make it up, right? Because, that's what you do, right? So I've got the coolest ki in the dojo, okay? Maybe so, right? Or what we can do is avoid it altogether. We can let the artificiality, so to speak, right? Because if you're only doing this in the dojo because it's what you do in the dojo, even these guys, right? It's what you do in the dojo, and you don't understand it, right? Then it's gonna feel weird. It's gonna feel artificial. It's gonna feel fake, right? There's gonna be a sense of discomfort, right? You do it in the dojo, you do it at martial arts tournaments, whatever. because everybody's doing it, so you can hide in the group, right? You're not doing anything weird because everybody's doing it, right? But if you did it, right, out in the world, even in the context of a defensive situation or a fight, see, there might be these subconscious, unconscious, or even conscious level fears. You know, somebody going to think I'm a geek. Somebody going to think I'm, retarded. Somebody going to think, I'm tossing these words around, not because I use them, but because, right? Okay. You can avoid words, but the feelings that those words convey still come up, right? What are you, a moron? You can't use that word. Now you're going to dictate my feeling? Right? I mean, do you have no education? Do you have no critical thinking skills? Are you that stupid that you jump to that conclusion with that much information, and now you're going to run through everybody else's life like a freaking freight train? Sorry, that's a moron. You not only don't know any better, but you don't care to learn any better. Okay? So anyway, I don't have a problem still using those words. Okay? But we can avoid it, right, altogether because, well, see, it feels weird. Well, maybe it feels weird because you don't understand it. Okay? So what's the solution, right? Well, the solution is by coming to a full understanding of what ki is and how to use it naturally, how it actually comes up, how it's actually a natural part. You've probably been, not probably, you've been doing ki at random points in your life since birth. Okay? But again, when we're talking about this stuff and applying it to life and the way it's supposed to work, whether we're talking about this side of things or the mikkyo side of things or whatever, what we're talking about is grabbing these tools and fleshing them out and really understanding them and being able and developing a skill proficiency with them so that we can use them intentionally, not accidentally, right? Almost everybody slips into a Zen mind, merging focus, one with the moment, when they're watching a movie, could be watching a sporting event, could be in the middle of a hug with somebody, could be whatever, right? But it happens accidentally. It happens spontaneously, but it's not something that we can apply, right? So this is about living intentionally, not living accidentally, if we want to take control of the process. If we don't, then this is not something you want to dive deeply into any more than you want to dive deeply into how do I extrapolate the lessons from kata instead of just learning the damn kata, because that's the official thing. Okay? So anyway, by coming to a full understanding of what this thing is, right? How to train with it until we reach a state of naturalness, like comfortable naturalness. We understand, right, how it works, and we just keep practicing it until it just we get back to a state of naturalness, right? Then when we do that, then we can add it again as another tool, right? As another way to attack our assailant, right? On a deeper level to make our defensive action much more powerful, right? This is in the realm of the spirit. This is part of psychological warfare, but it goes way beyond that because remember I said it's a part of the spirit, right? Which may or may not have anything to do with a fight, right? But it has to do with everything that we do, right? How do we engage with things? Ki is about engagement and depth and level of engagement, okay? So again, during today's session, we're going to be looking at the concept of ki from two perspectives. I'm going to try to get through the second one. The first one definitely we're going to get to is taking a look at ki from the Togakure school, okay? This stuff is actually passed down in the lessons. And so there are these 4 shouts or 4 general types of ki that we're going to outline. If I have the time, then I'll jump into these 5. They're a little bit different because it's much more natural integration kind of stuff when it comes to everything else. Right? It can still be used in a fight, right? But there's 5 that come out of our mikkyo based on the godai, the 5 elements. Okay, so and for those of you who are familiar with mikkyo and those kind of things, right? So again, we're going to take a look at them from the Godai, the 5 elemental model or framework that makes up the Rokudai, or the 6 grade elements, and that in and of itself comes out of the 10 levels of consciousness. Just keeps getting deeper, doesn't it? Okay. So, but anyway, but first, all right. So let's answer the question, right? What does ki mean? What does it point to? Okay. And again, this comes right out of the scrolls because the past masters, right, defined it a certain way based on the way things were understood. Okay. So ki, right, in the Japanese language, ki, in Chinese it's chi, right? It's different, right? But ki, right? This is the this is the universal dynamic force. What the hell is that, Sensei? In Mikkyo, we would say that this is the void. This is the invisible stuff that you can't see that makes up everything, right? But anytime there's an interaction between things, little d dharma, longer story, right? Anytime there's an interaction, energy is produced. But all things, whether it's us or this board or a tree or whatever, there's energy going on, right? Nothing is ever still, okay? Well, you know, we can talk about dead people and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately energy goes somewhere. So anyway, all right. So it's the universal dynamic force. It's the energy behind the spirit of everything in existence or potentially in existence. Okay. I is the root form for Japanese words that point to or mean things like harmony. Okay. The concept of coming together. Okay. Or associating. Associating, relating, that kind of stuff, right? Okay. So we're already nowhere near shouting. So what the hell? Okay. Right. So on a base level, when we talk about kami and we talk about being aware of your condition and we talk about the kami being holistic, right? So there's a physical nature to it. There's a mental nature to it. There's a spiritual, emotional feel to it, right? I went over that in the previous episode of Whiteboard Wednesday. So if you go to the channel and go to the live tab, right, it'll be the one, well, I guess just before, it'll be before this one, before this week's Kuden podcast episode, and then there'll be that one, right? But we broke things down because we were talking about intent, right? Which obviously involves this, but it's not the same, okay? In that case, we'd be integrating intent because it's bringing everything together, okay? But we talked about these 3 aspects of kami and how each one projects intent, right? So when you take up the physical form of the kami, right, what you're conveying, the type of intent you're conveying is your readiness to deal with whatever shit they're throwing at you, okay? So sloppy kami, okay? Real solid kind of stuff, right? I want to convey to them that you got to get through this, okay, before you can get to this, right? The mental aspect of it, she can't see, right? But that mental aspect, the intent is my plan, my strategy, right? The way I process things and how I'm going to work this, right? At least to start off until I get more information, right? And then the feel of it is something I'm transmitting across, right? It'll be the look in my eyes. It'll be, there's a certain just like when somebody walks into a room, there's a certain presence to them, right? You know when somebody looks lost, they look like, ooh, who the hell does he think he is? That kind of stuff. Because their presence, right, speaks volumes, right? So there's this feel that I'm conveying to him right? So in some kamae, it's if you touch me or if you come at me, I'm going to kill you. If in other kamae, it's you know, you can attack me when I say it's okay, right? I'm gonna control you with this part or this part, right? In other ones, it's you know, I don't want to fight, but I will if I had, those kind of things, right? But he needs to feel that, okay? And unless he's whacked out on crack or whatever, the average person is going to be able to feel that, okay? But it's been my experience that most people do kamae like a dachi, like a stance. It's just this position you take up because that's what your style says. Say it's no different than the way people approach this stuff. Okay. So anyway, right. So the past masters from the Togakure tradition, right, through the Densho, right, translated the concept of kiai literally as harmonizing with the dynamic force of the universe. Okay. Well, that doesn't tell us much more either, does it? Right. But what it means is attuning with the total flow of, now this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but again, depending on how much you get involved in and how much you really understand and how much you actually tune in to what's going on. Because kiai is not, it's not alien. It's not something you just do in the martial arts school. It's not just about shouting, right? Kiai is actually harmonizing with everything that's going on around you because you're a part of that experience. And the more you can do that, the more you can affect things. Okay? The less you can do that, the more you're going to feel like an observer in the audience watching life as though it's a play on a stage, and you feel disconnected and you don't know why you can't make anything work. Right? Shit's just not working for me, man. This, you know, we just need to change the whole system. Doesn't matter. If you don't get integrated into the workings and the happenings, it doesn't matter what system is going on. You can tear everything down and start all over again. But if you're not integrated, then you can't feel and sense more than just what you can see, touch, taste, hear. Okay. Anyway, those who have passed the Saki test for fifth dan might have a glimmer of that, because that's a gateway to the next level, right? Of being able to sense what you can't sense. Okay. Anyway, all right. So, where's it going with this? Again, it's a tuning, right? Tuning in, engaging, becoming one with, right? The total flow of energies and happenings of which, again, we're a part, right? So it's integrating with and not merely observing and perceiving, right? The experience that we're a part of. Okay? We can't complain about the situation that we're in. Well, we can. People do it all the time. But we can't complain about the situation we're in without acknowledging that we're a part of that situation. Ego likes to play a this game, but that's not the way it works. Okay? That's not the way it works. You're not an alien. You're not an outside observer. Okay? You're not looking at a mold or whatever growing in a petri dish. And even if you were, the scientist is still a part of the experiment, which means the experiment gets modified just because he's there watching or she's there watching. Okay? All right. So the idea here is that all the individual pieces, aspects, happenings, right, including us, merge as one flow. Okay? Harmonizing with, associating with, coming together with, right? In Zen, right, there's that old Zen pizza joke, right? Goes into a pizza shop, Zen monk goes into a pizza shop and says, make me one with everything. Okay? I know. It's not funny. Okay? But it is the goal. Okay? So anyway, in many contemporary martial arts, right, modern martial arts and whatnot, unfortunately, the kiai has been reduced to this idea of it's just shouting, right? And it's done at the same time, or it's always approached like this is the thing that you do at the same time as some form of aggressive attack that you're doing, right? Very often at the end after a throw, and then there's this cool finish and whatever, right? Or when you're going to break a board or, whatever, okay? And it's not that that's not one type, but see, it just really limits what's really going on, okay? and hopefully I can hint at it enough as we go. And I'm not going to mean to hint, but this is an experience. Just like if you've ever been in a violent situation, if you've ever been in love, if you've ever been like actually a part of something. I don't care if it was a sporting event. I used to play volleyball in my younger years, and like when things were really heated, you don't think about where anything else is. It's you, the ball, and the action to where the ball needs to go. There's that, you're just so engaged that the rest of the world disappears. Right? That kind of living and engagement. Right? Not tunnel vision. There's a sense to it, but when you get involved in this, all your senses get sharper. Things are brighter and more clear and sharp. Sounds. I was just talking to my inner circle group last night. We were doing our Tuesday coaching call, and I was talking about we can train in stealth movements in the dojo, but it's not until you go out there and you put the stuff to use and intend to be an extremely quiet person, right? You start listening to the sound of your feet striking the floor, whatever surface you're on, and you figure out how to minimize that impact to minimize the sound. Same thing with picking up a cup or any object or whatever, right? I was describing how the hand goes on the table or whatever, and the fingertips come in at a certain angle, and you have to work with this, and then you apply pressure with that edge of your hand so that your fingertips lift that thing straight up off the surface and there's no rubbing, because sound is created by friction. So I need to understand friction as a part of understanding stealth. I need to understand shape and silhouette and how the human brain identifies another human shape, right? From a distance, not close up, right? What does it look like way, way far away? Then I can start approaching, how do I mess that up? How do I confuse the brain? Those kind of things, right? So what we're talking about is doing this stuff all the time so that it stops being something you do and starts being a part. All of your skills all become a part of who you are. Not the way ego plays, right? I train in ninjutsu, I do karate, I do this style, I do, I'm a stamp collector, whatever. That's putting labels on to justify ego's existence. No, your actions communicate who you are. Okay? What makes you you? Okay? You, yo. Anyway, all right. So, all right. But again, the shouting thing isn't necessarily wrong, right? It's just, right? It's kind of a surface level. It can be a place to start to dive in, because this ultimate level is really difficult to it's difficult to get your head wrapped around, let alone do. Okay, so let's start there. Okay, let's take a look at 3 benefits of this kind of shout. This, tying the shout in with that aggressive move. Okay, so the first one is physiological benefits. Okay, in that energy naturally produces noise. Okay. Ki is, like I said, it's a natural thing. When I said that you've been producing ki since you were born, right? An uncomfortable baby, right? Screams, cries, right? If you're just overwhelmed with, humor, you're in a funny situation, environment, somebody says something funny or whatever, right? There's that blast of energy that comes out in the form of laughter of some form, right? But it could be it was kind of a not a backward joke, but an inside joke kind of thing. So see him, okay, that's very different than somebody slipped and cracked their skull and you just thought that was the funniest thing because of the way their body went, right? So what kind of laugh, right? The kind of laugh is dependent on translation, my involvement, because if I did that and that was my assholes and tin cups flying all over the place or whatever, my ki would sound a whole lot different, right? And may suddenly come to a stop, okay? But if we think about ki in nature, right? Thunder is the ki for lightning. there's a sizzling kind of noise that comes when there's a short that's happening in a breaker or in a wire, right? Your, your stomach, right? Churning when you're hungry and the stomach acids are doing their thing, right? There's this sound that's produced, okay? This is ki, right? This is the sound that energy and activity is producing. It's a natural byproduct, right? If you were helping a friend push his car uphill because it ran out of gas, or picking up something really, really heavy, or you're at the gym and you're doing that kind of thing, right? You might have picked it up, and at a certain point, right? Whether you knew it consciously or unconsciously, right? Breath, tension, and all that, and all of a sudden, you do this, right? That's a ki. But as long as we keep thinking about ki in relation to martial arts, then it's just going to feel artificial. It's going to feel, there's going to be a sense of discomfort with it, right? But if we can recognize these things and recognize how when the laughter comes out or the angry voice comes out or whatever, right? It's not just the words being said. It's not just this guttural noise. There's a meaning in that, and it's telling about what's going on the inside, in the head and the heart, okay? There is a sense of integration. Okay, so we already do it. The trick is to practice it so that it's a tool and not an accidental outburst. Okay, we became one with the moment because we laughed. But can we become one with the moment or sustain that because we need to? Right? I don't know. Anyway, right? So there's this, just this physiological kind of thing, right? Physiological response. Okay, and where I'm going with this is that doing a ki helps a student learn proper breathing, mental focus, timing, that kind of thing. Because if you're doing the ki as you're doing the movement, you know. Because if you and then you do it, right? Well, that was out of sync. Or you do it and then well, that was out of sync, right? But there are these physiological kind of things. And it also helps to relieve tension, all kinds of stuff, right? If you've ever felt all right? And you couldn't do it where you were, so you went outside and just, right? Because you want to punch a hole in the wall or a loved one or whatever, right? Okay? There's this release, right? This release of energy, right? Just goes, okay? It can temporarily distract, right? Or throw off the attacker, right? To create openings, okay? To stall the next punch, stall the next attack, okay? That kind of thing, right? So it can surprise. Again, it just doesn't just open him up, right? But can also cause him to tense up, right? Because if you set off a firecracker next to him, he does that, right? The body has tensed up for that microsecond, so when your shot hits it, there's more damage. Because if he's relaxed when you hit it, he's going to mold around it and move with it, okay? But if you cause him to tense, like you just put him in a vice in that microsecond and you hit him, more damage occurs to him because his body's not molding, it's not receiving, it's going with it, right? Yes, he's getting damaged, but it's not the same, okay? And the third way is it actually diverts your attention. Because if I'm focusing on the ki and the action that I'm doing, then in that microsecond, I'm not worrying about his incoming attack, his attempt to throw, or whatever. I'm so into what I'm doing in that moment that what he's doing is inconsequential. It's like when I was talking about that volleyball game, right? I'm so into this thing that the rest of the world disappears. And every once in a while, I hear, hey, good move, or whatever. But otherwise, right? I feel my fellow players around me. I know where the net is, ground under me. Here comes the, right? You're just in it. That his thing, dude, you can do whatever you want, okay? And that's why, right, if we can tie that to things like this, right, the feeling in Jumonji no Kamae is whatever you throw at me is okay because I can handle it. Not a problem, okay? It's the warding off of all evil Kamae, those kind of things, right? But if this is being imitated, and in the beginning you're probably going to have to imitate, right? But what you're trying to do is integrate it, right? What I just told several students as they're coming up for their next test, right? You take up your kamae. In the beginning, I get it, right? It's all about form, right? And I'm going to ask you questions, okay? What kind of things do we do from that particular posture, right? What's the strategy, right? Do you know that kind of stuff? Great, okay? What's the feeling in Gyoko Ryu Ichimonji no Kamae? What's the feeling in, well, we'll stay with Gyoko Ryu. What's the feeling in Gyoko Ryu Hicho no Kamae? Whatever, right? Okay? In the beginning, they're going to be able to tell me, but I can't see that because you're just taking up a stance. At a certain point, you're going to have to work with this. And there's no shouting. There's nothing, right? But there is this integration, okay? And if you're not one of my students, you can disregard all this stuff because you're not accountable, okay? But the goal is, and the goal that I was held accountable for was a teacher, a master should be able to look across the room and not just see the form, but feel that intent, that they know that your body is an outward manifestation of that strategy that's going on in your head and that intent that's going on in your heart. They should be able to, right? That, okay? Because you don't do kamae, you do stances. You become a kamae. Okay? Kamae is a verb, right? It's a state of being. It's a condition that you're in. Just like if you're tired, right? Okay. Or you're lazy, depressed, you're happy, right? That they have it, right? But can you flip switches and turn these things on and off so it looks authentic, it's fucking authentic, right? And then how do you approach the upper levels of mastery where you're going to hide intent if you don't know how you produce it? Okay. Anyway, all right. So physiological response, right? It allows the body to be more powerful, right? Create more pressure. When I exhale through a strike, right? That could be. It's still ki, but it's aspiration, right? That kind of thing, right? It releases undue tension and it applies things. It directs it. We can distract the attacker, right? We're not just creating openings. We're not just kind of distracting him for the moment, but we can also cause him to tense in that moment, which creates a much more powerful attack, right? And at the same time, it diverts our attention away from worrying about, I have to win, I can't lose, whatever, right? You're just in there, okay? So again, the problem is that without really understanding the end game, right? The ki will just continue to be strange dojo, tools that they don't seem to have a place in the real world, right? But the training hall, my teachers always taught me that the training hall has to reflect real life, especially if I'm training for real combat, okay? So what are we doing, right? Anyway, so again, we're going to more on Friday when we jump into that virtual class. I know some of you guys, you sign up for it almost religiously, but that's where we're going to be. We'll be doing techniques, right? Techniques are techniques, but we're going to be integrating these things, right, to make a change, okay? But let's do this. Let's jump into this thing here, right? So based on natural emotional conditions, there are 4 general types of ki that the past masters from the Togakure school identified, okay? So I'm just going to outline these things very, very quickly. I'll use my voice a little bit, but again, I'm going to give you the sounds in kind of Japanese, but English speakers are going to have natural sounds are going to happen for them. German speakers are going to have natural sounds for them. French speakers, that kind of thing, right? It's going to be adjusted for your language. You can try to fake a Japanese master's sound, but that's being produced because years of speaking a given language cause your muscles to work a certain way, and so things get expressed a little bit differently, okay? Just like Japanese don't see the same kind of red that we see, right? Their red is more of a reddish orange tinge, right? Their blue is more of a blue green tintish kind of thing. It's not the same, right? And it's because of the way the eyes filter. And anyway, right? So again, we'll go through these things very, very quickly. See if I have time to fly through the godai sounds, which are just these things as the voice changes. I think I did something on this way back, and if we can dig it out, because we're well over 100 episodes on this stuff, but if we can find it, I'll try to make sure that we have the link to this other complimentary one where I went into this a different time. Anyway, all right, so 4 of them, right? So in no particular order, right? So we're going to start with this attacking shout. It's probably the closest to what most people think about ki because of the word attacking. But the sound is not, it's not the same, right? This is a low, drawn out, almost growling sound, right? It is an expression of commitment, right? To win, right? So the sound from a native Japanese speaker is more like an kind of sound, right? But we might say, hey, right? It's going to have more of this. There's an A sound to it, but again, it's low, and there's this guttural kind of, right? And again, now I'm an English speaker, so lost a little bit of that A sound to it, but it's low, it's drawn out, and it's just this, think MMA and some of these guys that get out there like that kind of thing, right? And again, it can feel weird in the beginning. I don't feel weird doing these things, right? Because it's in context. But when I do that sound, notice how my body takes up a certain position. I didn't just stand here and go, the sound is, it doesn't communicate the same thing, because I'm just making a sound. But when I put my body in a certain position, I think about a certain thing. As a matter of fact, when I said that, I imagined somebody in front of me that I'm moving in on. Why else would I do that? If there's nobody there that I need to destroy or stop from doing massive damage, why the fuck would I say that? It's stupid. Okay? So the mental game has to be there. The heart has to be in the thing, right? Not just can you do the moves and can you put your partner down and feel all like warm and fuzzy about yourself. Ooh, that was cool. Okay? Because that part of training, right, can help you get in touch with things that you could have out there. So your feelings when you're with friends, your feelings when you're in a given situation, confidence becomes more raw and authentic, right? Your commitment to getting something done. This will be done. It has a, right? There's a state of being that goes with that. Harmonizing the intent, the plan, the action, sanmitsu. We've covered this shit before. Okay, we're just doing it for different action. Okay, so there's this that go. Okay, so next one is called a reacting shout. Sometimes I call it a responsive shout, but we'll use the words that I was given. Okay, a reacting shout. This one comes from a sense of figuring him out, right? You figured him out, you've caught him, right? And you're letting him know, okay? Because these shouts are not just shouts, right? Remember what I said, this is psychological warfare. Oops. Right? Your fist attack his body, okay? Your strategy and your tactics neutralize his strategy and tactics. But this attacks him, it attacks his spirit. It attacks him at his very core, okay? So last episode, right, if you were in for the intent class last Wednesday, I talked about this story from Takamatsu Sensei's early days when he was senior student in Mizuta Sensei's dojo. And this dojo invader comes in and challenges, basically he wants to shut down the school or own it, right? And this brand new, the old guy, right? But he's a new student and all that kind of stuff. He, can I do it? Can I defend the school? Takamatsu Sensei felt kind of indignant, right? My job, right? And Mizuta Sensei let this guy do it because he, told Takamatsu Sensei, if he gets his ass handed to him, you get to go next. And then, because the way it works is somebody gets to do it, and then the senior student gets to do it. And then if he fails, then the teacher has to defend the school. Okay. Anyway, this guy gets up, jumps out in the mat, yeah, and just does this kind of thing. And the dojo invader stepped back and conceded. And he stepped back and conceded because this guy didn't even lay a hand on him because he didn't know that many techniques. But he was committed to give it his fucking best shot. Okay? But this reacting shout, in Japanese or in the Japanese language, the sound is more like a toll, that kind of thing, right? But it's not just the sound, right? It's this, what is the feeling, or if you were trying to convey something, right? Somebody's throwing a bunch of bullshit in your direction, right? And you catch them in a lie, right? You go, oh, okay, yeah, no, okay? Because you caught them. oh, I see what you're doing. That kind of thing, right? Okay, it's that kind of conveying. Toll. Right? So next time somebody throws a punch in, right? You do a uke nagash, right? And you go, right? Caught you. I know what you're up to, right? Gotcha. Okay? When you do that and that sound comes out, imagine what they're going to feel like. They thought they were getting their best shot in, and you moved, bang, caused some damage. Okay? Right? Or just, right? Okay. Gotcha. I see what you're doing. I know what your style is. Okay? That kind of thing, right? Imagine what that does to their heart and their head. Okay? It's just like hitting somebody, dunk, and they go, seriously? What would that make you feel like? Right? Okay? Because it's not just about the strike. Okay? Get their head, you get their heart. Take them. Take them. Dori, to seize, to take. Okay? Mushadori, warrior catch. Okay? Not just wrapping their arm and affecting their shoulder. I have you. I'm going to break you. Okay? Right? So attacking shout, reacting shout, there's the victorious shout. And I apologize, when I thought about that reacting shout there, I slipped in a little chuckle here or there because the more you know, and if you have a strategy and you can read their thing, and we'll talk about this with the last one, because the last one sometimes doesn't have a sound at all. So, but there is one that may come out, right? But it integrates these other ones, okay? If you have it and you know them, right? You don't have to do a finishing move to do a victorious shout. These things can start blending because as soon as I know what your preferences are, what your fight style is and whatnot, I have a huge advantage. That doesn't mean that you can't hurt me, but that means you're going to have a hell of a time making it happen because I know what to look for. Okay. So a victorious shout, it comes with taking the lead. It comes from that sense of overpowering him. It's like, I got this. Okay. Okay. If you've ever been trying to solve a problem or whatever, or somebody's, you're kind of working this thing through, and all of a sudden you have this aha moment and you're like, okay, shit, got it. Okay. And you go about your business. You may laugh or your lips just may turn up like, okay, I got it, right? There's that sense of relief. There's that sense of, I got this, right? So in Japanese, in the Japanese language, right, it's more of like a ya or yo, that kind of thing, right? But in English, right, it's more going to be like a ha, right? Like ha, right? That kind of thing, right? And it can sound like a laugh, right? Now imagine you snatch somebody and you're laughing, right? Because not only do you have them, but you're enjoying the moment as they fall. This is why I don't get involved in that kind of stuff on a regular basis. Okay? Because if I'm burning that bridge, we've already gotten past negotiation, pleading, whatever, right? If I'm forced into that situation, okay? You know the old story of Nero playing the fiddle while Rome burned, right? That's a symbolic reference to somebody who is enjoying the fruits of their labor. Okay? In the moment. It's just like, somebody trips and falls, right? You're in the moment and you're not laughing because somebody fell and hurt themselves. You're laughing because their arms went one way, their legs, the image and the action look like something out of a comedy movie. That's why they imitate that stuff in comedy movies, because there's something way down deep, right? Okay. So anyway, attacking shout, reacting shout, victorious shout, right? So we've got we've got this kind of thing, right? Here we've got this ha, right? Yeah. Okay. Right? And then we have one called a shadow shout. Of course we do. We're fucking ninja, right? Anyway, shadow shout. Now this one becomes really difficult to describe, right? But this is when you are like at one in the moment, right? You're not worrying about what's to come. Well, let me just read off my notes here because I just threw a bunch of disjointed thoughts together when I was throwing this stuff together. So it takes over complete self. There's total commitment, combines the characteristics of the three base shouts. And I just kind of threw out a question here as I was doing this, right? What would the feeling be if you attacked him after figuring him out and were completely satisfied with your responsive action, but your attack was your responsive action? Okay. In another area of our training, and I've done a Whiteboard Wednesday on this, there's this idea of the sen, right? Sens, right? In some systems, they have 3 sens. In some there's 4. I teach from the perspective of 4 sens. Sen, in this case, the kanji means to initiate. Okay. So the sens are when you initiate on your movement. Okay. So for those of you familiar with the Godai response system that we tend to use, there's gono-sen. So gono-sen is like the water response stuff. It's this defensive stuff, right? So gono-sen is I initiate my movement upon his attack. So he attacks, and that's when I start moving, okay? Then there's sen-no-sen. Sen-no-sen is I attack upon his intent to move, his intent to attack, okay? So this is related to our fire mode of operating, right, where you preempt things, okay? But there's a difference between just going first and going in the gap between him intending to go and his body starts moving, okay? Because thinking about attacking is attacking. I mentioned that during last week's intent kind of thing as well, right? But what would that be like where you were just fully in the moment and you picked up on that intent and you went, right? So your defensive action, your attacking action, your victorious stuff, your response, all that was just all happening at the same time, okay? So here's the idea. You're in tune with him and you attack as your defensive action, okay? You're in the moment. No thoughts of past, future, no worrying about winning, no fear of losing. You're completely in the moment, okay? So I'll talk about this here in just another minute here, but the sound, there's rarely, but sometimes a sound with a shadow shout, right? It's just like mantra, right? In our mikkyo system, most people think of mantra as stuff you say, but there's 5 different levels of mantra, from the fully spoken while you think about what you're saying and the intent behind it, to at this level here, you're not saying anything, you are pure intent. We'll get back to that in just a minute. Okay, so here, if a sound doesn't come out, it's almost a sound of integration and satisfaction and all that together. So it's almost the same sound you make when you're meditating, right? It's almost a okay. You know that some people call it a yummy sound, right? You take a bite of something or you smell something that you really, really like, and that sound comes out. Yeah, this is it. There's nothing better than this, right? The taste and or the smell and all that kind of stuff just kind of take it over, and you're just in that experience. Or you hug somebody, right? And there's that, right? It's just this dissolving kind of thing, right? So it's really hard to get into it, right? Anyway, I'm going to do this very, very quickly, okay? So as far as the 5 sounds go from mikkyo, let's do it this way. Let's take this one because we don't care about how people mistranslate things. We give a shit about how we can do it and use it and go from learning self-defense and martial arts stuff to integrating this stuff in, so we become not just martial arts masters, but a master of our lives, in which case the martial arts techniques are an aspect of our life that handles very specific problems. Meanwhile, back in the rest of our lives, we're highly successful, we're highly motivated, we're vibrant, living a life that we want to be living, right? But we got the tools in the shed just in case some jackwagon tries to take this thing away from me, okay? As opposed to, I'm a martial artist, I'm a master of the martial arts, but the rest of my life is shit. Okay? So anyway, I don't care about that stuff. Okay? So quick overview of the 5 Godai sounds. Okay? And they coincidentally, they match the Japanese vowel sounds almost exactly in order. Okay? So earth, water, fire, wind, void. Now, to produce these sounds, and again, some other class, to produce these sounds, there we go from fully open, fully relaxed, everything, there's little to no tension in the voice, in the body cavity, everything is fully open. Do you hear how the tone of my voice has gotten extremely, extremely deep? This is not a matter of me manipulating muscles in my throat. This is a matter of me relaxing everything. So the natural sound that will come out when I exhale across my vocal cords is okay? So the sound here, the bass guttural sound, is this low sound, not right? So in English, somebody might throw something at me and I might say stop. I know how it's spelled, but how's it pronounced? Stop. Halt. Okay, that kind of thing, right? So we apply a little bit more pressure and tension in the belly, in the throat, right? That will change, right? Turns into an O sound. Okay, see, pull, right? This reacting thing, water, defensiveness, O. Okay, so here we might say, whoa, 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 okay, or oh no, you don't, that kind of thing, right? So there's this O sound kind of thing going on, right? Fire, right? A little bit more tension, right? Because now, right, we're gearing up to go, okay? So we go from fully open, more relaxed, less relaxed, and so I'm changing muscles in the torso. So initially there's nothing, right? And then it's down here, and then more tension here, more tension up here, the throat, right? There's more tension there. The mouth, right? The lips start changing, right? That kind of thing. So what we get is, right? So we've got this A sound, right? Sorry now. Lose ink, right? A, right? This A sound, right? So if I'm moving in on somebody, hey, right? That kind of thing, where I'm just, right? So more tension up. Okay, and then it'll change even more, right? The more tension, right? Because we tense up, right? Right, that kind of thing, right? So low, up, right? Okay, I'm not going to keep dropping things. We'll just start right about where I was, right? So, right, almost turns into an ooh sound, right? Or ooh sound, right? So kind of a do as you choose, right? Just that kind of thing, right? Do as you choose. Not looking at spelling. Sound, right? And then if I just keep tightening things up, either it's just going to become an aspiration, right? right? Just a sound, right? Or it can become a high-pitched E sound, right? So it goes higher, right? So in Japanese, it's a I sound, right? But it's this E for us, right? So this higher pitch kind of thing. But generally, it's just it just is an aspiration kind of thing, right? Where again, hard to describe the sound because of full integration, right? And then again, there is this full integration where, right, when I'm talking to somebody, I may start out like, hey, right, chill out, right? So I'm a little bit more here, or I might just go, stop, just stop, right? Throws a punch at me and I go from stop to whoa, 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 right? But in the middle of that, right, I open them up, they're about to come in again, right? Whoa, hey, 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 right? I'm back in there to get that kind of thing, right? So all these things kind of, right, they come out of the tension, the relaxation, but integration comes from understanding it, looking at it, right? Approaching things more like a scientist, okay? But the idea with ki, regardless, right? In the beginning, again, we're studying this stuff. It seems like we're tearing it apart, right? The whole idea is to go from accidental, exploring, to intentional, okay? So again, you're in the moment, no thoughts, right? You're in the moment, right? So here's the way I have it in my notes from my teachers from way, way back, right? When ki takes over your personality, the intensity and passion of what you're doing takes over completely. You lose the sensation or the feeling or the cognition that you are here and all this other shit's going on around you. Like that volleyball game I was talking about earlier, right? Or like in the middle of a fight kind of thing, okay? You're not in a situation. You're a part of the situation, okay? That changes everything about how you're going to approach it because whatever you do affects the whole situation. Your choices, everything, right? Because the situation is a part of you. You're a part of the situation. It's disintegration. Mikkyo, we talk about this, right? We have this wovenness, okay? Right? And in the one Kuji 8, right? Is this retsu, okay? You make a diamond thunderbolt, make one of these things, right? With your hand, this way, okay? Normally you would just wrap your hand around this way, okay? Goes in this way, index finger is pointed, okay? This is the realm of man, okay? Right hand wraps around it. So I'm feeling like I'm holding one of those things in my hand. When I wrap my hand around it this way, I feel like I'm holding one in my hand. And then my thumb presses down on top. What I just did was create an omyodo, a yin yang, okay? The realm of man, the universal realm. There's no stop or ending. What's happening is one's feeding the next, and there's a feedback loop and whatnot, okay? That's it, okay? There's this integration, one with, okay? And then the ninth one is, just sending it back out again. Anyway, for those who get involved in mikkyo, there's a bunch of different ways that we approach this, okay? But the way we'll wrap this up is that, again, it takes over your personality, that kind of stuff, right? You're just in this thing completely, right? You're not imitating or doing it because, okay? The sounds become a natural part of what's going on. You have totally become your intention, okay? There is no separate. We talk about the sanmitsu, thought, word, and deed, intent, planning and thoughts and word and action and whatnot. That's not how you go through life, right? You get a feeling or an intent and you speak it or you act it out or whatever, right? I'm thirsty. You walk to the kitchen, you open up the refrigerator, you get whatever, you pour it into a glass and you drink. You didn't think about intent, planning, where's the refrigerator, how do I walk, all those no, you've already learned to walk. You've already learned how to open a refrigerator. You learned how to open a vessel of whatever sort. You've learned how to pour it without spilling. You've learned how to drink. All these things, all these skills that you already have. Now you just have an intent. I have an intent to hug my wife. I don't think about, I have an intent to hug my wife. I will approach my wife from this angle. I will wrap my arms. No, there's intent. You just, right? And when I hug my wife, right, there's an intent to envelop, to merge, but I don't think in those terms. There's the comforting, I don't know this person, but I'm, going to share some energy with them. And then there's my daughter hurt herself, and I'm going to wrap her to try to absorb that pain, take it away from her. Okay? This is not just shouting. This is not just psychological warfare. We are entering the realm of the spirit. In the context of personal combat, yeah, we can move it into certain realms because we're moving the spirit. We're moving the intent. We're applying the energy a certain way. But it's not this contrived, right? In our style, we do a ki here. Why? Do you mean it? What are you conveying to him? What is that expressing? Or is it just another step-by-step piece of the kata that will always just a little bit feel artificial? Okay. Anyway, that's what I have. Sorry, we went a little over an hour today. I apologize. If you want more of this, you want to see some of this stuff kind of get integrated into techniques and whatnot, that's what we're going to be working on this Friday. Oops, sorry, there's the URL, right? Sign up. If the page isn't quite ready yet, give it a little bit. It'll kick in, and then the buttons will go active, all that kind of cool stuff. And $4.99, right? And even if you can't make it, you get the recording, right? That's it. No hard sell, right? If you make it, great. I'll see you then. And, you can ask some questions and get more clarity. And if not, I wish you well. I've given you more than enough. I'll shift up here into a wind realm, which is where Hatsumi Sensei hangs out. Okay? Do as you choose. I'll see you next time.